Have you ever been told you're being too needy or, clingy? It's a label that just carries so much shame with it, right? But what if that behavior wasn't some kind of character flaw? What if it was a deeply ingrained ancient survival alarm that's just, well, a little too loud? Today, we're going to deconstruct clinginess, not as a weakness, but as a completely misunderstood and hyperactive survival program, one that pushes people away when all you're desperately trying to do is pull them closer. So let's get into it. Let's talk about why holding on tighter is the very thing that makes them slip away. So, we're going to start with this core emotional problem, a paradox that I think sits at the very heart of so many relationship struggles. It's this feeling that the more you try to secure a connection, the more fragile it becomes. Just let that sink in for a second. Think about that. This one idea, it just perfectly captures the tragic irony of what's called anxious attachment. The very things we do to show our love, to secure that bond, they're often the exact things that cause it to break. It's a painful, totally counterintuitive truth, and honestly, understanding it is the first real step to changing the whole pattern. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this breaks down the huge disconnect between what you intend and what they experience. You think you're just showing you care with that fifth check-in text, but for them, it feels suffocating. You believe you're being attentive because you want to know their every move, but to them, it feels like being controlled. You are desperately trying to prove your love, but from their side, it feels like you're not building a bridge, you're building a wall. And look, this isn't about who's right or wrong. It's about recognizing that your love is being received as pressure. Let's get really specific for a second. Have you ever felt that physical, visceral tightness in your chest when a few hours go by without a reply? Have you ever found yourself scrolling through their social media, not because you're curious, but like you're a detective looking for clues that they're losing interest? Or hey, maybe you've even picked a fight just to get a reaction, any reaction that proves they still care. This isn't just you being dramatic. This is the abandonment anxiety loop, and it is a powerful physiological response. So what's actually happening in your brain during that anxiety loop? Well, a key concept to understand is called object inconstancy. Basically, it's the struggle to hold on to the felt sense of a relationship. That warmth, that security, when the other person isn't right there in front of you, giving you that active reassurance. It's almost as if the relationship itself starts to feel like it's just disappearing, unless it's being constantly performed and proven in real time. And this right here, this illustrates the massive difference in programming. For a brain with a secure attachment style, space is just space. It's a time to recharge, to connect with themselves, and they know the bond is still intact. But for a brain caught in this anxiety loop, space doesn't feel neutral at all. No way. It feels like a threat. It feels like a void. It feels like social death. The absence of connection is interpreted as the presence of danger. So this feeling of danger, it leads directly to what psychologists call protest behavior. These are the things you do to try and close that terrifying gap. The constant texting, the questioning, the arguments you kind of start out of nowhere. You're just reaching out to fill that void. But here's the tragedy. Because you're acting out of fear, not genuine connection, your energy feels demanding. The other person's brain senses this neediness as a threat to their own autonomy, and they instinctively pull back to protect themselves. And that withdrawal, of course, is the very thing you feared most, which just makes you protest even harder. So how does this whole downward spiral actually work? Well, we can think of it not as a series of bad choices, but as a biological feedback loop. It's a hyperactivation circuit, basically an alarm system where the volume has been turned all the way up to 11. This whole circuit, it unfolds in 4 really distinct stages. It starts with a trigger, it escalates into a biological panic, leads to an action, and then ends with an outcome that, you guessed it, just reinforces the original fear. So let's walk through each stage so you can really see this machine in action. All right, stage 1, perceived detachment. This is the trigger, and it can be something incredibly small. Maybe they're just a little quieter at dinner, or they use a period at the end of a text when they normally don't. Your amygdala, that's your brain's emotional threat detector. It doesn't see nuance, it just sees a relational gap, and it sounds the alarm as if a lion just walked into the room. And that alarm triggers stage 2, attachment hyperactivation. This is where your body just takes over. Your brain gets flooded with stress hormones like cortisol and norepinephrine. And this isn't some gentle nudge, it's a full-on physiological hijacking. It creates this compulsive, undeniable urge to do something, anything, to close that gap and seek proximity. Your rational brain, the part that knows they're probably just tired, it gets completely shut down. This physiological command, it leads you right into stage 3, The protest. This is the clingy behavior itself, sending the "Are we okay?" text, asking, "What are you thinking?" for the 5th time. You're actively trying to pull them closer to calm your own nervous system. But this triggers the final, painful stage, the relational rebound. The other person feels that force. Their own nervous system detects it as an intrusion, and they go into avoidance mode. They give a short answer. They leave the room. And this perceived rejection sends your amygdala into a complete meltdown, which just resets the entire loop at 10 times the intensity. And this is where this quote just hits so hard. You're a biological system trying to survive a perceived drought of connection by drinking so much water that you end up drowning the very person who provides it. Now, you're probably thinking, if this system is so self-destructive, why on earth does it even exist? To understand that, we have to zoom out from our modern relationships and look at the deep, evolutionary software that's running the show. This isn't a modern bug, it's an ancient feature. I mean, that's the essential question, isn't it? Why would our own biology seem to work against our deepest desires for connection and intimacy? Well, the answer is that the program isn't designed for intimacy. It's designed for something way more primal: survival. The principle at play here is called mammalian proximity primacy. For the vast, vast majority of human history, we lived in small, interdependent tribes. Physical closeness wasn't just nice, it was a non-negotiable requirement for survival. To be alone was to be vulnerable to predators, starvation, all of it. A baby who didn't cry when its mother walked away, well, it simply didn't survive to pass on its genes. Think about that. We are all the descendants of the criers. Our brains are hardwired with the belief that proximity equals life. And this leads to a fascinating and pretty stark insight into this ancient programming. From a survival perspective, your brain would rather have a bad interaction than no interaction at all. In its ancient logic, an argument, a fight, even a tense conversation is still proof that the bond is active, it's engagement. Silence, on the other hand, that is terrifying. To the amygdala, silence is the sound of abandonment. It's the sound of the predator approaching in the tall grass. So what we're experiencing here is a phenomenon called evolutionary lag. Basically, our software hasn't caught up with our environment. As you can see here, first, your brain literally processes social rejection just like physical pain. It hurts. Second, you're using a survival program that was perfected for the intense, dependent bond between a mother and an infant, and you're trying to apply it to a modern adult relationship. And the result is that your brain is constantly prioritizing instant safety, "are you here right now?" over the conditions that are actually required for long-term intimacy, like trust and space and autonomy. Okay, so we get the paradox, we've dissected the circuit, and we've uncovered its ancient roots. Now for the most important part, what do we do about it? How do we move from this cycle of automatic protest to conscious self-regulation? All right, here's the mission. It's simple, but it is not easy. To break this cycle, you have to actively retrain your brain's alarm system. You have to provide your amygdala with new evidence over and over and over again that space is not a threat, that distance does not equal danger, and that a lack of immediate contact does not mean the bond is gone. And here is a clear, actionable toolkit to do just that. It's a 4-step process for taking back control of your own nervous system when that alarm starts blaring. We're going to start with how to manage your thoughts, then your body, then your actions, and finally your life. First up, we manage the mind with gap reframing. When your amygdala sounds the alarm, it tells this catastrophic story. They're losing interest. They're leaving me. Your job is to manually engage your rational brain to offer a different, more likely story. So instead of "they are leaving," you consciously tell yourself they are occupied, or they're in a meeting, they're driving. But managing your thoughts is only half the battle. The second step is somatic self-soothing, which is all about calming your body. The anxiety you feel is physical, so place a hand on your chest, take 3 deep, slow breaths, and actually feel your nervous system downshift. This physical act sends a direct signal to your brain that you are safe right now in this moment. Okay, so once your mind and body are a little calmer, you can use the third tool, and this is one of the most powerful circuit breakers you have, the 20-minute delay. When you feel that compulsive urge to send that protest text, just make a deal with yourself. Just wait 20 minutes. That's it. This gives that initial spike of stress hormones time to metabolize and fade away. And more often than not, after those 20 minutes pass, the catastrophic urgency will have vanished, and you can act from a place of calm instead of panic. Now, those first 3 tools are for managing the crisis in the moment, but the fourth, and maybe the most crucial long-term solution, is autonomy mastery.
This is all about building a life that is so rich, so interesting, and so fulfilling to you that you don't need a constant status update from your relationship to feel okay. It's about cultivating your own hobbies, your own friendships, your own passions, so that your sense of self-worth is generated from within, not borrowed from someone else's attention. Because true security isn't about eliminating space in a relationship, it's about being okay with yourself when you're in it.
And this brings us to our final and maybe the most profound takeaway of all. The entire struggle with clinginess comes from this belief that we have to hold on tight to prevent someone from leaving. But the deepest truth of human connection reveals the exact opposite. The only way to truly keep someone close is to make it safe for them to be far away. It's about building a bond so secure that it doesn't fear distance. Real agency begins when you realize your need for them is the very thing making them need to get away. So don't hold on, show up for yourself, and let the closeness follow.